Hey, so big news, Bitcoin just breaks back above $90,000 while the stock market continues to bleed out. Why is this happening? Why is it such a big deal? I'll go ahead and tell you why it's so bullish in this video. And more importantly, is this the start of a new Bitcoin bull run where we go back over $100,000 back to new all-time highs? I'll go ahead and talk about that below and what I'm watching for, and make sure that you stay tuned all the way to the end of the video because I'm going to give away $100 in Bitcoin to one subscriber who comments on the videos. So if you're into crypto analysis and charts as well as free Bitcoin, make sure that you subscribe to my channel right there. You will see the subscribe button. If you are subscribed, it will say subscribed, but make sure that you subscribe if you want to win these Bitcoin giveaways, and you must leave a comment on the videos. Just last week, people were so down on the crypto market that crypto was dead, that it was over. But what do you know, as we are back over that 88K level that I talked about in prior videos, that this was a key level. If Bitcoin could break above on the daily chart, which we're looking at right now, above 88K, it's likely to go back and retest this 93K to 95K level. And that is where there is some interest, because you also want to know that that 93 to 95K level right here will also be potentially a place where people take profits if they longed or bought in down below. That is, of course, for traders. A lot of people are investors, including myself, who will continue to hold spot Bitcoin as it goes into new all-time highs in the future. But as you notice here, if we go ahead and go down to the 4-hour chart, I want to go ahead and expand this so that you can see it. But what you notice, why is that 93 to 95K level so important? Because it acted as support prior and is a key level that we know if price can break back above this area, that it's going to potentially then be back into the prior range. And so we want it to break this level, come back up here, retest, get back into this prior range right here, okay, before it can actually move back up to new highs. So in order to do that, it has to break it back above this, because it acted as support numerous times before breaking down and going back or going down below sub 80K. Those areas of support typically act as resistance when price moves back up. And so that's the key level. That's what we want to watch for. And understand too that price might get up here, reject off here, and then push back up above. So watch for that as well too. I will likely buy into that retest if it does break above, and I think that a lot of people will, because that will be good for the overall market. And clearly Bitcoin is showing strength right here, especially compared to the stock market, because currently the stock market is up around 9% from the lows. The good news for Bitcoin is that it's up over 22% from the lows of 75K. So 23%, it's looking fantastic, definitely outperforming the stock market. And if you look at this right here, this is the Bitcoin and USD value to stock market index ratio, which means that one Bitcoin is 17 times more than the current stock market index. What we're looking here on the weekly chart is it's starting to break back above the local high. The local close is looking to make its highest close ever on the weekly chart against the SPX index, which means that Bitcoin is clearly outperforming the stock market. And if you can't see, I'll go ahead and zoom right in here, and it looks fantastic. So basically just needs to break above this area. And if Bitcoin can do that, will be the highest close ever against the stock market index. And so I think a big question is, why is this happening? The big key for this, Bitcoin is outperforming and it's becoming more like gold. And what does that mean to become more like gold? That's because gold has been a hedge to the times when the stock market goes down. Gold typically goes up as a hedge. And you're going to notice here that Bitcoin correlation is trending up with gold. So if you can't see this, the purple line here represents gold. And the higher this line goes, the more correlated it is to Bitcoin. Now, what you're going to also notice is that recently, over the prior couple of years, that the stock market, the NASDAQ, the S&P 500, those stock indexes have been correlated very much closely with Bitcoin. And that is starting to change. Notice the gap here close as the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ come down in correlation, meaning they're less correlated to Bitcoin. The prices don't move right together as gold has trended up over the past 2 months. It would be really phenomenal if we can see gold actually surpass the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ with correlation with Bitcoin, which would be a very positive thing, especially if the stock market and the economy continues to be shaky. We want to see Bitcoin continue to go up in value during these times. And again, you're probably asking, why are stocks going down while Bitcoin is going up? And really, primarily, it's the trade war talk. And so people are losing confidence. They think that currency and fiat and the dollar is manipulated, political chaos, rising yields have hurt equities. And again, even China has warned countries against appeasing Trump in trade deals, meaning that you can either side with the US or you can side with China. Pick one or the other. Because of that, a lot of people rely on China for their economy, for trade. And so that's scaring people when it comes to US assets. And so that's also the other thing. Powell is under pressure. Is he going to cut rates? Or because of all the tariffs, is inflation so high? We even had Bank of America come on today and say, inflation's just so high, we don't expect any rate cuts for the entire year. If that were to happen, that would definitely hurt US stocks. And so because of this global instability, because of the potential currency manipulation where you can just cut rates and raise rates, cut rates whenever you want to manipulate things, people are starting to see through that. And they're looking for assets that are decentralized, that don't rely on the central banks, and that is cryptocurrency, specifically with Bitcoin. As you can see here, Bitcoin is being looked at more and more as a safe haven, just like gold. But also, too, it's important to know that with Trump attacking the Fed, and as you can see in prior articles over the past couple of days, again, as I said, that he attacked Powell, and Trump has said he wants rate cuts now. So what people are basically thinking as well is that, well, basically, we're going to get rate cuts because that's what the president is asking for. That's what he's pressuring. And will Powell be fired somehow from the Fed if he doesn't cut rates? So I also believe that some people are speculating there will be rate cuts. And because of that, you're seeing some of this increase in value going back onto a few risk on assets, specifically, like I said, with Bitcoin, for the fact that it does stand out against stocks being decentralized and not being manipulated like we've seen potentially with the stock market over the past few years. And you may even ask yourself, why is this time different? Because we've seen that so many times. And of course, going back to the correlation chart, and yes, and it does at times go in cycles where it's correlated and sometimes it's not. Over time, we do expect Bitcoin to be less and less correlated with the stock market, specifically those tech stocks that have primarily, the Mag 7, been overvalued over the past decade, especially since the 2010s. That was the trade to be in. But if people do believe that there is an overvaluation of these tech stocks, it's likely that the S&P 500 and tech-heavy indexes are hurting in the coming year. But I think just in general, people are noticing Bitcoin as a store of value, as something different than the stock market, than bonds, than these things that can be manipulated from the central banks. And bonds are really no longer a safe haven, because for the longest time, people thought, hey, if I just put my money in bonds, it's safe, it's backed by the US government. US debt just continues to go up every second, every minute, and people are losing faith in the US government, especially anything backed by the dollar, anything backed by the government. We see debt continue to spiral out, and will the government ever be able to pay it off? And I think the answer is no. And because of that, we're seeing things like bonds not be so desirable anymore, and people start to run more and more into assets such as gold and such as Bitcoin. And speaking of Bitcoin, the dominance continues to go up. We're up at 64%. This is the first time that Bitcoin has hit up over 64% in dominance in the crypto asset market since 2021. And that's before it just fell off a cliff there before an alt season happened. But in general, Bitcoin dominance continues to go up. Again, it's seen as the major crypto asset, the one that is most likely acts as a hedge against the current economy. And I continue to see this to continue to go up. And it's not until this peaks out, which could be up over 70%, which I believe that we could have more of an alt season where other crypto assets just go up like crazy in value. But that's not until Bitcoin dominance lightly start to go off again or pull back, which that could be weeks or months away, if even that. But the strength of Bitcoin and the dominance that you see right here is just another reason why I think it's important to make sure that a portfolio that has crypto assets definitely has Bitcoin in it, because we have seen time and time again that Bitcoin has outperformed other crypto assets on the long term. But before we go, I just want to let you know that Bitcoin, we want to see a break of the 93 to 95K level, as I talked about earlier in the video. Only then do I believe that we can go back up to that 100K plus level, which would be huge. I think a huge narrative that would draw a lot of people back into the crypto market. And I think that we could get a lot of liquidity running into those other assets as well if we see that happen. So 93 to 94K, if Bitcoin does come back below and break this 88, 86K level and comes back into the prior range, I think that could be trouble. But overall, it looks good. So if it does reject off this 93 to 95K at first, don't worry. Definitely that tends to be a norm with resistances, but as long as it bounces back and goes through, that's what I'll be watching for here in the coming days to weeks. Hey, before we go, you want to know who wins $100 in Bitcoin for leaving a comment, and that randomly selected person for this time is the BTC Learner. So BTC Learner, congratulations on winning $100 in Bitcoin. I'll reach out to you so I can get your address to send that $100 of Bitcoin. And if you want to win $100 in Bitcoin, just click the subscribe button there below the video and you'll be in the running if you leave a comment on the videos. Hey, so with that said, make sure to watch that 93 to 95K level for Bitcoin. We want to see that break. But as far as that goes, we'll keep an eye on the market for the rest of this week. I'll have some more updates this week as well, new videos. And also make sure to check out this video right here up in the corner. If you've not yet seen that video or my previous videos, you need to take a look at them. So make sure that you watch that. A lot of good information in that video that should help you out. And as always, you guys trade safe, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.